So we'll get started in here just a minute. I decided to talk tonight about how to work with being overwhelmed, feeling overwhelmed. I think that this is a pretty good timing for talking about this because I've lead a lot of groups, and most the people that I talk to have at least one person in each group who feel totally overwhelmed by what's happening in our world today with Afghanistan and Haiti and their own families, the pandemic, the fires throughout the Europe and the West Coast in the United States. It's just a lot to deal with, right? And it's easy to get overwhelmed. So, what is overwhelm really? To me, overwhelm is when the life conditions are happening in such a way that we don't have the resources to deal with them, right? Either things are moving too fast, or there's just too much, or both, too fast and too much, and our capability of meeting and greeting all of this and saying yes to what's happening is reduced, diminished, right? I led a class yesterday, and the whole class was about saying yes. Yes to anxiety, yes to fear, yes to the tightness in the back or the shoulders. And what I was doing is I was trying to help people learn how to meet and greet their experience with acceptance, with kindness, rather than with resistance. And when we start saying yes to our experience each moment, we start to we're more mindful of what's happening. Oh, yes, anger is here. Oh, yes, fear is here. Right? And that's been my practice for a lifetime. Meeting and greeting everything that comes to me to want to be experienced. And because I do that, I'm very open to whatever's coming. And most of us who are practicing have an open heart, pretty open heart, right? And when we have an open heart, we're bound to feel a lot of emotions, particularly difficult ones when a lot of people on the planet that we feel connected to, whether we know them or not, we feel interconnected to. When other people are suffering, it's hard not to suffer, right? And when there's too much suffering, without enough resources, we feel overwhelmed. I decided to talk about this point because I was feeling overwhelmed. I was like, whoa, what's going on? My whole body felt like it was shaking inside for a few days, about a week and a half ago. I'm like, oh, this is anxiety. Yes, anxiety. Let me meet anxiety. Huh. Anxiety has become a good friend of mine. It's where my psyche goes when it's feeling stressed, goes to anxiety typically. And as I sat with this anxiety, I'm like, oh, this is really intense. I didn't have the capacity to deal with it with the usual amount of equanimity that I usually do. So I realized, oh, I'm overwhelmed. My whole body, heart, and mind is overwhelmed. So there are a few things to look at when we're overwhelmed. The first is, what are we taking in? What's the input that's feeling overwhelming, right? How much of it are we capable of taking in at that moment? So what I've noticed is for myself is that there are certain days I'm capable of a whole bunch of, information and love and attention and connection and relationship and conversation. And then other days, my capacity is not as high. I'm in a more introverted, pulling in, restoring. I'm in a restoring mode, kind of like we have our batteries, that we have to refuel every so often. So we go out there, the Energizer Bunny, and we're going. Now all of a sudden, the battery is starting to get a little dim. Hello. It's time for me to pull back, go within, to take a breather, schedule some downtime, right? So we have what we're capable of each day. Then we have the things that we have to deal with each day. We have our energy levels, and then we have the information we take in. So when I'm feeling overwhelmed, that is an invitation for me to look on all these different areas. What am I taking in? What am I taking in too much of right now that I don't have the resources to deal with? And how can I up my resources? Right? How can I increase my resources right now? What do I need to feel more at peace, calm? Typically, the human mind doesn't want to do that. Have you noticed? Typically, the human mind wants to go, it's her fault. If she hadn't, said whatever she said to me yesterday, then I wouldn't be so anxious or upset. Well, it's their fault. It's that fault. It's because there's so much going on in the world. It's because of this. It's because of that. Yeah. Have you guys noticed that? So when I'm feeling anxious, anxiety arises, my mind immediately starts looking for the reason that I'm anxious. Why am I anxious? What's going on? Right? And it finds information. It starts digging through the past. It starts going through the past. It starts looking at my interactions. So maybe I'm having an interaction with someone that feels a little bit tight, and then I go really anxious. It wasn't all from that person. There was a bunch of other factors coming into it. But the mind typically looks for things to blame. It's really interesting to see and to make excuses for and to figure out. But when I'm mindful, I see, my energy level is waning, my anxiety is going up, agitation is going up. Okay, what is needed right now? What is needed right now, right? And I'm not going to blame this person or that person or this person or NPR for giving too much information. Because I get to choose as I go through my day what I'm going to allow in, what I'm going to take in. Really, what am I going to take in? We're like sponges going around. We can choose what to take in, what not to take in to a certain degree. And this is all in the with the intention to really take care of our minds and our hearts and our bodies. To figure out what would be a balance for me right now. And this is not a selfish thing. This is not I'm just going to the hell with the world. I don't care because I need to take care of myself. No, it's not like that at all. So there's still a deep caring and engagement in the world. There's just I want to be a positive force unto the world. Therefore, what do I need to feel more balanced and whole right now? Right? And it's not easy because none of the world promotes us to take care of ourselves. What's the one thing that most people say to you and say, hey, how have you been? For me, busy. Most people say, oh, I've been really busy. Oh, it's been crazy. Or been good, but so busy. I mean, 9 out of 10 times, listen, when you ask someone, how have you been doing? What's been going on? They'll usually use that word busy. That is the nature of our world. Crazy busy. So our world doesn't promote us to have the things that will come with feeling at peace. I see feeling at peace as the opposite of overwhelm, feeling balanced and at peace. So if you have patterns of overwhelm, I used to have a pattern of overwhelm that I had to see clearly for me to let it go. So look at your patterns. If you have patterns for overwhelm, to see how it is you're relating to the world. Be mindful each day, and then see when the crash and burn happens. And you'll see, if you're mindful as you're going through, oh, I see how this pattern, and then you'll notice the pattern repeat itself over and over again if you have one, right? And my pattern was, when I felt really good, I would put way too many things on my calendar. I said yes to everyone, every commitment. Yeah, oh, that sounds great. Okay, what day? All right, I'll put that on my calendar. Um, so now my pattern is, when I feel really good, don't put anything on my calendar until I feel normal again. Right? Or look at my days and go, well, there are already two or three commitments that day. Don't put anything else. That was my pattern. When I was feeling badly or really tired, or so my pattern was feeling really good, putting way too many things on my calendar, being really excited about life and about everything, and then crashing and burning and getting exhausted, and then hiding away from the world and saying, leave me alone, everybody. I wanted to put a blanket over my head and just say, bah, leave me alone. But I had to see that it wasn't everybody, it was me. I was doing this, right? And it's a tendency I have. And it comes from, out of self-compassion. I was raised by conditioning that said, if you're not busy, you don't deserve to exist. What did you get done today? That's a thing my father used to ask us when we sat down for dinner. What did you do to deserve your food tonight? Right? It's like, what? I'd breathe. I was breathing. Isn't that enough? Breathing? You know? But my mother she's 88 years old. She doesn't hardly ever sit down. She's busy, busy, busy. Both of them are busy, busy people. And that was the conditioning that I was raised in. Be productive, or else you don't exist. You don't deserve to exist. Don't do anything unless you're going to succeed. Don't ever fail, never fail. Failure is not a possibility in our conditioning. So I was set up, right, to be overwhelmed. I was raised and conditioned to be overwhelmed. And then no surprise that I did that. Striving for perfection that is non-existent. Feeling like I had to succeed at every single thing that I did. And feeling like I had to work from morning till night to deserve to be alive. Hello, where's the joy in that? Where's the joy? So if the reason I bring up joy is that was coming from a place of scarcity, right? The human mental conditioning. Joy and presence and mindfulness opens me up to feeling a balanced state of mind, right? And when I can be fully present, balanced state of mind, I see things clearly. Oh, what's needed right now? Sitting on my back behind my house and staring at the leaves and the birds right now. Yeah, that's what's needed right now. Or whatever it is when I have a spare moment. But the mind typically will typically say, oh, what you need is to watch TV. What you need is to get on the internet. What you need is to buy something from Amazon. What you need is to put another thing on your calendar. What you need is to start another project. What you need, we have to really listen to this mind, because sometimes the mind is not coming from wisdom. It's not coming from what's in our highest good. It's coming from scarcity. It's coming from conditioning. It's not coming from passion, from true interest. Sometimes what's coming to mind is in alignment with who my heart, soul, body, whatever, something that would be beneficial to me and others, and that I would enjoy doing, right? Pico Iyer, he's a travel writer. He said people are moving at the speed of light instead of the speed of life. I use that quote a lot because it's true. We're trying to multitask, and the truth is, the brain neuroscientists are saying that our brain is wired to handle one thing at a time, one piece of information at a time, one thing at a time. The brain can't handle a lot of different things at one time. It may seem like it because they're happening so rapid fire, but the truth is we can only focus on one thing at a time. So really hyper motivating or trying to be focused on too many things at one time really stresses me out, right? That's important. So what stresses you up? What brings you into overwhelm? That's something that you need to be aware of. Does that make sense? Yeah. I wanted to find something I had written here down. So when we are overwhelmed and there's not any really good, we're not putting too much on our plate, we're not, or even if we are putting a lot on our plate, if I'm totally overwhelmed, if you're totally overwhelmed and you're having a hard time, it's really important to stop and to explore this sense of overwhelm, to really come into your body, sit with it, take a few deep breaths, take care of your anxiety, take care of your restlessness, take care of your whatever's happening. One thing that I saw when I was exploring this sense of overwhelm is I saw a tremendous amount of insecurity and fear underneath all the anxiety and restlessness. Oh, feeling not good enough, right? There was a lot of feeling of unworthiness. Couldn't be, a lot of fear of not being perfect, a lot of fear of not succeeding. And what that fear did is it motivated me to put too much on my plate so that I would be overwhelmed. Yeah. To put more on than my psyche could handle. So I became a master of exploring anxiety and restlessness, and I saw what I was doing. Most of the time, I would not have been overwhelmed if I didn't have all that fear and anxiety, right? So the fear and anxiety was stopping me from being fully present with what I was doing, and it was causing all this anxiety as I was trying to get all these things done, and then I was totally exhausted. Does that make sense? So without all this fear and anxiety, I could have just been batting one right out of the park, batting another out of the park, another. I could have been enjoying my day, getting stuff done, doing what I had to do with passion, with mindfulness, and enjoying my life. But no, it was the fear and anxiety that was causing a lot of the pain and suffering and overwhelm. And that may be the same with you at times. So we have to process this restlessness, anxiousness, exhaustion. Some people like to say rain on it with a recognize, accept, allow, become intimate with, and then do this all in a really non-attached, nurturing way. Here's Thich Nhat Hanh. Only through acknowledging and opening to suffering can we stop and come to rest. Can we find stillness and a deeper ground of goodness and well-being? It is the suffering that prompts us to let go, to live more lightly. By touching the suffering, we can awaken the fullest compassion within us. So sometimes we are overwhelmed because we don't have the capacity we're putting too much on our plate. Other times we're overwhelmed. The psyche feels overwhelmed because it doesn't want us to feel what's there to be felt. So we stay busy because as long as I'm busy, I don't have to feel what wants to be felt, what needs to be felt, right? So it's really important to schedule simplicity, schedule rest, schedule time alone, schedule quiet periods during the day. I don't check my email till the afternoon usually each day. And I had one lady, she was a friend of mine. She called me and she said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I said, "What?" She said, why don't you respond to my emails? I've sent you 3 already this morning. And I sent you some text too. And I was like, yeah, I don't really pay attention to my technology till the afternoon. She said, well, how? She was really mad at me. But the Buddha factored in the simplicity as a part of spiritual life. His disciples were allowed 3 possessions: robes, alms bowls, and medicine, right? And there was a reason for that. Simplicity helps us. When we don't have a lot going on, we have to focus on what's present, to be with whatever's happening each moment. This is a quote that I like to say often for the Buddha. He said, students, whatever a student frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his or her mind. So what are you pondering upon all day long? How much information are you taking in? That whirlwind can cause overwhelm too. Too much information. But with excessive thinking and pondering, I might tire my body. And when the body is tired, the mind becomes strained. And when the mind is strained, it is far from concentration. This is the Buddha. So I steadied my mind internally, quieted it, brought it to a singleness, and concentrated it. Why is that? So my mind should not be strained. So he's talking about, what are we thinking and pondering upon? And are we bringing in too much information, straining our mind? Are we concentrated enough? Interesting. So overwhelm is it's an emotion that happens. One other thing that can happen with me, I don't know about you, is when I start thinking in the future a lot, I get overwhelmed. Right? When I look at everything I have to do in the next 2 years or 2 weeks or today, I can get overwhelmed. If I look at my whole to-do list and see everything I've got going on, I can get overwhelmed. Or when I just moved recently here to a new house, and I had so much stuff to do between the legal stuff, the realtor stuff, the moving stuff. I was fixing my old house to sell it and selling that house and moving it was a lot. And I looked at each day, what do I have to do today? What needs to get done today? What needs to get done today? Because if I looked at everything I had to do, I would feel totally 100% overwhelmed, right? Yeah. So what do you got to do? What are you looking at? Are you looking at too much futuristic thinking? Is that causing overwhelm? What I usually do is when the mind starts going into the future, I just say, oh, planning mind, future thought, future thinking, planning, causing anxiety. Yeah. At this moment, everything is fine. At this moment, everything is great. Here's Thich Nhat Hanh. An old monk in Thailand drew a picture of a happy, smiling Buddha on the wall in his cave, and under it a most peculiar saying, "Oh, joy to discover there is no happiness in this world." What could this mean? It is an acknowledgement that there is no lasting happiness because of the eternal truth that nothing lasts. Only when we stop running and accept that life, with all its dance of change, its 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows, with its inherent suffering, only then can we find peace and wisdom. So, as human beings, I think overwhelm happens, especially now with the world we're living in. I don't want to insinuate that being overwhelmed is bad or wrong. I think it's going to happen, but how do we deal with it? Can we deal with it? Can we bring mindfulness to the overwhelm? And from bringing mindfulness to this feeling of overwhelm, we'll gain a wisdom, right? We'll know what's needed right then to bring more balance and peace and ease to this overburdened or overwhelmed mind, heart, and body. Yeah, thank you for listening.